because he hadn't read it. And that got the audience, kind of involved because they weren't talking over your head. Like, well, I haven't read it. So
Yeah,
I always thought it was
sure.
a good technique. All righty. Stream is live. So we run the stream. This part of the show will be cut off from the published version. So we're putting it out there live, but tomorrow we will have the finished version that Suncast will edit out any terrible mistakes that we make or any technical foibles, and he'll put an intro on the beginning and an extra on the end, and that's what'll get published. I'll send you links to that tomorrow. So if you want to share that, share that with anybody. So as long as Suncast has the link, has the stream live, I'm going to on Facebook. I share that out to several groups. This is our method of distribution. We if you're in broadcast engineering and you're on Facebook, you can't miss it. So that works out pretty well.
Yeah.
All right. Let me share this out to the Broadcasting Club. And one more place. Let's see here. Oh, the Memphis airport's been renamed after Fred Smith, the founder of FedEx. Just saw that in the news. That's kind of appropriate, since 78.2% of the planes that land there have FedEx on the tail.
No.
All right, sec here. Okay.
Hello.
Oh, hello, Chris. Are you there?
Is that Chris?
I am here. I just woke
that's
up.
Awesome. Oh, you just woke up. Well, I'm not on the page right now. I am busy sharing the stream out. Oh,
Gotcha.
This is great. This is great. So glad you're here. Hang on a second. I'm almost done with that.
I was going to go back to sleep, but I saw your text, and I felt bad for you, so I got up.
Well, Chris, you have far more experience in the academic world than do I.
I have no idea where you got that from, but okay.
Well, you have kids in college.
Well,
right?
Not yet.
Well, okay.
I slept at a Holiday Inn Express.
Oh my gosh. All right, let's try this again. Let's share this to, okay. It should work. Okay, let's hope that worked. Almost done.
Oh,
so,
there
we go. Okay.
That changed things a little bit.
Hi, Chris. I'm Andy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Andy, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Chris, we've met before, I think. Hello.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Hey, Suncast, thanks for quickly getting 4 people on. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that looks good.
Mm-hmm.
And then he'll probably do a single shot when somebody's talking. You know, like when Chris tries to take over the show.
Right.
Chris, you don't look like you just rolled out of bed.
Well, that's because my hair was nicely coiffed before I fell asleep.
Well, we're going to start in about 30 seconds or so. Like I said, this is live. We'll edit it, and right after the show's over. At the end of the show, gentlemen, hey, for the first time in forever, I'm going to remember to tell you, William and Andrew, at the end of the show, we try to do a tip of the week, and Chris almost always has a good one, and I never have one because I put that on Chris when he's here, or my guests. So if you can think of a tip of the week, maybe a website, a piece of test equipment, a pamphlet, maybe a college course, then you could give that a nice plug at the very end of the show. Tip of the week.
Tip of the week: the address for cranky pants.
Yeah.
all right, well, we're about to roll here. So
Okay.
here we go. All right, Suncast, you want to spotlight me, the host? Thank you very much. All right, here we go. Hey, everybody on the network, glad you're joining us. You've been watching Sausage Being Made, and now we're gonna get to the charcuterie board right now. This is episode 754 for June 26, 2025, and we'll start the show. We'll start the show in 3, 2. Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we talk about everything from the microphone to that light bulb at the top of the tower. I'm Kirk Harnack in the Telos Alliance studio here in Nashville, Tennessee. It's a beautiful, hot summer day here in Nashville, and I'm off the road. You may remember last week I was in New Jersey, in Alpine, New Jersey, at the Armstrong transmitter site, and what a blast that was. I was delighted to be there. Today, we turn our minds and our hearts to a really interesting topic, one that I've wanted to be able to talk about for a long time, and there's been little, if any, opportunity to do so. So we'll tell you the topic coming up here in just a minute, but we've got two guests on the way. Let's head on over to Mukwonago, Wisconsin, and my good friend, just an amazing guy, Chris Tarr. Chris, glad you woke up. Good to see you.
Amazing guy. Yeah, I did. I had to wake up. We had some wild weather here. My stations in La Crosse had some issues. There was a tornado that ripped through there last night. And excuse me, it caused all kinds of problems. But it's actually kind of interesting in that it was a very good example of why we have backups for backups for backups. So essentially what happened was I have my STL to those sites are via fiber. And the storm knocked out power for a while. Then the fiber was down. However, in anticipation of this someday happening, which first time in 5 years that it happened, I have a playout machine at the transmitter site connected to a Max Connect. So that machine, when the power came back on, that playout machine turned on, kicked in, and started playing music right away. All the voice tracks and commercials were up to date because of the Max Connect and the IP tunnel, and so that was really good. The other thing we've been battling here is the heat. We've had unbelievably hot weather here, and of course, in the Midwest, a lot of us don't air condition our transmitter sites just because generally you don't really need it with enough airflow. Um, so I've been having to deal with the past weekend turning transmitters down, opening doors, all that kind of fun stuff. So it's and then the week before I was in La Crosse doing some teaching at a clinic there. So lots of stuff going on. Fortunately, I was up really early, up late last night, up really early this morning, took a nap, and just literally probably 20 minutes ago woke up.
I'm delighted that you woke up and answered my call, because I sure do want to see you today. All right. Well, we got a news release about 3 weeks ago or so that there was going to be a broadcast engineering program available at a university. And I thought, well, this is great. There may be others. I don't know of them. I don't hear about them, but I heard about this one, and I thought, this is what we need. This is great for people interested in broadcast engineering. Now, I'm a member of the Society of Broadcast Engineers. I'm technically in the mentor program. And Chris, I know you've done plenty of mentoring yourself, right?
Yeah, I'm part of the mentor program. I have a couple of mentees. In fact, I saw one at the clinic I was teaching at last week, and it's a great, fantastic program. A good way to bring even experienced engineers. I think sometimes need that help. There were some new guys and some vets there at this thing last week, and we did talk about mentoring and how to be a good mentor and a mentee and everything. So yeah, you're right. There aren't many programs like that out there, especially what we're going to talk about today is really special because that is I like to call it kind of a unicorn.
Well, speaking of unicorns, we have two of them here with us. At least they represent the program. We have with us, we get a four-shot. We have Andrew Smock and William Kirchhoff are both here. And here's Andrew Smock. He's Associate Professor of Radio, TV, Film at UW Oshkosh. Andrew, and here's William Kirchhoff, Broadcast Ops Manager at UW Oshkosh. William, welcome in. And Andrew, why don't you go first? Beard before shaved. You can tell. I got to pick some order. You're in my lower left. Tell us something about what you do, and then we'll talk about the program. So, what do you do now there at UW Oshkosh?
So I'm an associate professor in our radio, TV, film program, and in my connection to the broadcast engineering program, well, it's going to be part of our program. But at the time we were beginning development, I was chair of our department, and was working very closely with Bill, and as I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more later today, members of the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association, to really kind of figure out what components we needed to have in a program like this to be able to make a go of it. So right now, I'm no longer chair. My term ended, so now I'm back teaching full time in the program.
Good deal. And let's also welcome in William Kirchhoff. William, good to see you. Tell us about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, I'm the operations manager, chief engineer for the WRST, and so I maintain all the equipment that we use for the program. And I've been here a very long time, so I've been integrated into what the program is a lot myself. But yeah, just work with the staff, work with the professors, work with the students, and try to get all the technology together that we use for the program. And for the teaching and instruction. And it's a little bit of a niche since we have the broadcast radio portion and the television, PEG channel portion of our facility, and then the post-production portion of the facility. There's a lot of different things that go on and a lot of different technologies that need to be addressed. And so that's what I mainly do. It's a lot of work.
William, I got to tell you, I just now noticed, because I was looking at your face before, and now I'm noticing what's behind you.
Sure.
If there's a need for you to record or play back a TV program on 2-inch videotape on a quadruplex machine, you're prepared, aren't you?
Yeah, a little bit. That's been around since I started here in 1990, and it's just I put it by the front door here, and it gets people's attention. The line monitor and some of the old technology there. Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, when I got started in radio, I was actually at a university radio and TV station at Eastern Kentucky University, and they had 2 of those big RCA quadruplex machines, exactly like the one that's behind you. So yeah. that is so cool. Hey, gentlemen, we because we're so popular, we take an early break for a commercial sponsor. When we come back, we're going to dive right into this broadcast engineering emphasis program at the University of Wisconsin Oshkosh. We're going to find out some of the things that students learn, ask questions about that, and see if we can, Chris and I are going to evaluate this to make sure these students are being well educated with the proposed requirements. So we'll be right back. Our show This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you in part by AIR.com. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack, and I'm here with Ricky Lee, the CEO of AIR. Ricky, you guys make a fantastic automation system, but streaming is a really big deal. Tell me about streaming with AIR.
It really is. We've got a beautiful streaming platform with an incredible dashboard with fantastic analytics. And you can buy it for just $20 a month. All you can eat. No limits on bandwidth or bit rates. And you can also record shows as well. So if you like to deliver on-demand content for $20 a month, you can stream and deliver that on-demand content to an RSS feed that can feed your radio player, your mobile apps, or a podcast that people can download and enjoy.
Now, $20 a month, that must be for just some slow MP3, right?
No, MP3, AAC, and we also now support HLS, which is big in the industry right now.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. How do I start to explore or find out more about streaming through AIR?
You go to air.com, AIIR.com/streaming, and from there, with a credit card, you can sign up and get started.
Big thanks to air.com for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Thanks, Ricky Lee and everybody. Love those guys. Great support, too. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack, and Chris Tarr is along with us. Here's the press release that came across my desk a few weeks ago. The University of Wisconsin Oshkosh is launching a rare program, rare indeed, to train students in broadcast engineering. The emphasis will be through the university's radio, TV, film department and includes courses from the school plus engineering technology, information systems from the College of Business, computer science, and music. And the emphasis followed years of planning and consultation, which is what Andrew was alluding to earlier, within the RTF department and the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association. So with that for a setup, gentlemen, who would like to kind of give us an overview of of the genesis of this program. What was your motivation? What made you think this would be useful?
Yeah, I guess I'll go first. Yeah, our program has been here for about 60 years, and I've been here for 35 myself. So uh, over the years, and even without the formalization that we're doing now, we've had a lot of people, I'd say 10, 15, 20 people that I know of that have gotten into the technology side of the industry, in the engineering side of the industry, and found good success that way. And as I'm getting older, and as a lot of these engineers that we all know are getting older, I just thought this is a really needed niche that we should try to feed into. And then they brought some other technologies here onto campus, like the curriculum says, the engineering technology courses and some of the basic electronics courses and things. And I thought to myself, we have all the elements to put together a good uh, and a basic entry level broadcast engineering major. I've always felt, and I believe for the years that I've been here, our facilities have been our strong point. We've had excellent staff and excellent teachers, but our facility is really very good with what we try to accomplish and how we accomplish things. So I went to Andy, who was a chair at the time, like you said, and I said, what can we do to try to get a major together? I think it would be received well, and obviously it is. So here we are.
Andy, you made mention of the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association. Chris Tarr is well connected with those guys. Andy, why don't you start first and tell me about how you started to put the coursework together, and Chris, you could welcome to jump in and contribute when you want to about what you think about the coursework, and if from your perspective, Chris, is it appropriate? Andy?
Sure. So when Bill first came in and spoke to me about this, he'd already done quite a bit of legwork and was telling me about, with engineering technology being a new program on campus, they've brought a lot of courses online that would make a lot of sense with broadcast engineering. And of course, computer science and information systems have been on our campus quite a while, and we knew they were doing some really good work. And he basically said, look at these certificates they already offer. So certificates are kind of like mini minors. So, we might be talking 6 classes or so. And I looked at these certificates, and he was right. I mean, the courses were right there. And so we had some communication with Bill Hubbard, who's a active member of the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association and also SBE, and he got us connected with other folks in WBA, and we found a few other engineers. Actually, WBA folks found a few other engineers, and we all got together and had a meeting in one of our production studios to kind of hash out, okay, what does kind of a modern broadcast engineering program look like? What are the required things we have to be able to make this work? And so right from the get go, I felt like we were really partnering with WBA to make sure that we were, not just putting something out there that, hey, we hope this will work, but putting something out there that we knew was going to, meet the needs, not just from our perspective, but from the perspective of the industry as well.
Gotcha. Chris, what was your reaction when you first heard about this program? You and I started talking about it.
Oh, very excited. Now, first of all, WRST has been known for a lot of really good alums. There's a lot of broadcast professionals that came out of that program over the years. So it's a fantastic place to start that for sure. WBA has always been focused on engineering. They've always been very engineering friendly and very supportive of engineers between,
Mm.
hosting the Broadcasters Clinic now. Bill Harvard with the Duke Wright Technical Institute, Media Technical Institute that I was teaching at this past week. We've been talking for a long time with WBA about where the learning is going to come from for future engineers. We put together grant programs, all sorts of things for students, and just trying to get people involved in broadcast engineering. So I was so excited when this opportunity came up, and I heard about it because there really is, there really is no learning out there available other than mentorship. And if anybody would be the perfect group to lead the way, it'd be, WRST and the WBA, really two organizations that are really kind of forward looking in their programs. WBA with engineering, and WRST just with the heritage broadcast program that they've had.
Gotcha. And we've been talking about this from an organizational point of view. And by the way, in a little while, we're going to look over some of the coursework. And this is just amazing. I'm delighted to see some of the courses that are either electives or required. But what about from a student perspective? What kind of requests have you had from people, from prospective students, or people in the industry? Hey, if you offer this, we'll sign up. William, do you have any thoughts about the draw? The pull for this?
Yeah. I guess my experience isn't with people from outside of our group, but some of the students that have worked with over the years here, because in the last 10 years, I think we've had quite a few people get more involved in the technical side of things. There's not just one engineer here. We have two engineers. So there's a supervisor and an assistant engineer that generally happen. So we can interact with the students, a lot of different ways. So like I said, I was really working on, what the industry needs, and that there are people even who started in the program here not knowing there was the technical aspects of things so much. There was a fellow that was here, and he got to his junior year, and he walked up to Tyler Ignarski and me and said, "Are there jobs in engineering?" And I said, and we're like, "Well, yeah." He said, "Well, I'm kind of looking at graduating now, and I'm not sure where I want to go. So what do I do?" And we said, "Follow us every time you can, and we'll mentor you as much as we can." And he's off working, and he's very happy. So that's my experience. I just know that if people are exposed to it or understand it, they might not know that it's a technical, avenue or career that's really interesting, and you can be community minded, you can be industry minded. There's a lot of different aspects to it that I think people just don't look at so much anymore. So that's kind of my perspective. And I think
huh? Yeah.
as things are changing here, we're just looking for different ways to serve the public as a university.
Andrew, same kind of general question from your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Since you're an associate professor, you see students all the time. What have you seen as far as them expressing interest?
So I'd say one thing that's been consistent in all my time here is that students will often come to the university because of our program, Radio, TV, Film, and know they love media, but not sure what they want to do because they aren't really sure what all the options are. And so I think that's part of what Bill was touching on in terms of, students, some gravitating toward that more technical end of things. And of course, throughout the program, students go in all sorts of different directions, but many of them have no idea that technical path is a possibility before they arrive here. They start taking courses. They have to go and they have to, do some work for their courses down in master control. And they start to, you see, there's this other avenue. We even have some paid positions for students that are engineering students, essentially. And I always think of it as like a little mini internship experience where the student is working very closely with Bill and our other associate engineer, Lauren. And they're not just following them around, but they're following them around and they're being mentored. And I think of it sometimes as almost like a parallel track in their education. So they're getting all this great classroom instruction and studio instruction and experience. But then those students who are in those engineering positions, I mean, they're really getting just a whole other track in their education. And we saw that there was, great success with this. Bill mentioned a moment ago that we've had multiple students go through the last few years that have gravitated toward that area of engineering and have gone out and they found fantastic jobs. And so the opportunity is certainly there, and being able to formalize that educational process a little bit more is part of what we're doing with this program. We want to really capitalize on all of the great things we do in terms of, production and how our students, produce a lot of award-winning content every year. Capitalize on that with this supplemental area of engineering and help those students find their home. We have many students, I can think of two in our program right now, that started as computer science majors and decided, you know what, program is not for me. I love computers, I love technology, but that's not for me. But I bet this could be for them, right? They came to RTF, radio, TV, film, because of that love of technology, because of that love of media, and they have that technical capability. They just don't necessarily want to be coders, and I think this could be a real good avenue for folks who are in that kind of position.
Chris Tarr, when I was young, and I bet Chris Tarr, you have a similar experience. When I was young and before I knew much about electronics, being self-taught, I would see a piece of equipment, a piece of home consumer gear, and it would say on a sticker on the back, "No user serviceable parts inside." And I would thought, if I could just get some education, that sticker wouldn't apply to me. I could open this thing and understand it. And so understanding, I'm just amazed, Chris, at the coursework that's offered, the wide variety of things that are all important. And what I'm getting around to my question to you, Chris, is that a broadcast engineer who's really valuable to an organization is kind of a guy like you, Chris, and I'm not picking on you, but I mean, everything from opening the mic and being on the air to understanding what it takes to set up a remote broadcast, if it's doable or not, and what they're going to need, to fixing a transmitter component level, to understanding IT and data systems, and even how to build a small data center. That's the kind of coursework they're putting together here, of a huge variety. I see these courses and I think, well, Chris can do that. Chris can do that, and Chris can do that. Well, tell me about, Chris, your thoughts on if you're going to hire somebody out of college, would you like them to have this broad knowledge of the industry, including from component level repair to being able to set up a remote and knowing what the talent needs?
Well, first of all, when I was a kid, everything had user serviceable parts. I just made it that way. Second of all, I agree completely with this, and there was a sentiment brought up a little while ago that there's a lot of people that don't realize that this track exists, and I agree 100%. That's one of the things that I've been trying to push with WBA and SBE is to let everyone know that these jobs exist. These are good jobs. I was on the air and in programming before this, and I'll tell you what, I make a whole lot more money now and a lot more stable job than being on the air. And there are a lot of people who really want to be in the media, but think about the nomad life and those sorts of things, but are very technically oriented. They don't realize that this is a career track. This is something that provides good jobs, stable jobs, interesting jobs. And you're right when you mention all of these things. All these things with building data centers, networking, transmitters. The job itself has changed so much over the years that you're not messing with cart machines and working in the back of an office where there's just nothing but solder smoke and things like that. You're a technology professional, and the things have gotten so much different with how we do radio now, with streaming and digital and audio over IP and those sorts of things that the difficulty that we have is that there are very few people that advanced who are teaching those things. We get a lot of people who are fantastic guys who have retired, and I use them as mentors for transmitters and things like that. But a lot of these guys have not gotten into audio over IP or digital or streaming or HD radio, and so are kind of lost there. And there's this whole kind of middle generation of equipment that really has not been trained and not really been exposed to people that really needs to be. And these are all really interesting things for people who are technically oriented. I'll say it again. I say it. I end up saying this almost every show because it's true. There's more copper now in Cat 5 than there is in RF plumbing in a transmitter building. And these things are. I was teaching a guy who was basically an IT guy, showing him how HD radio worked, and it's so similar to IP that he found it really, really fascinating. I had another student who is going to UW Platteville, and showed him Axia and Livewire and audio over IP, and he helped me build a studio, and was just fascinated by it, and he picked up on it right away because that's something that if you're into IT, that stuff tends to make sense. And these are people that we really need. These are the kinds of people that we need in this business. Transmitters are all plug and play nowadays. They have modules and things like that. You don't really need to know how transmitters work. The component level troubleshooting is important, but even then, most things now are so modular that you just replace stuff. What's really important is the networking. Again, we were talking about this at the beginning of the show, where most of my, or a lot of my studio to transmitter links are fiber, and they use IP codecs, and my data center's all audio over IP. You walk in and you wouldn't know it's a radio station. It looks like a server room. So yeah, I was very excited with the programs that they're presenting, and completely agree that all it takes is getting people exposed to this to really get them interested in it.
We are at a time for a break. We're talking with Andrew Smock and William Kirchhoff. And we're talking about the University of Wisconsin Oshkosh and their engineering program, their radio, TV, film program, I should say, with a broadcast engineering emphasis. And we're going to hear about. I want to hear about this coursework, because so many of these things I stumbled my way through, and I wish I'd had courses in some of these things. That would just be awesome. I'd be so much smarter now. Our show This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you in part by Broadcast Bionics, and they make something that is right at the crossroads of what we've been talking about, IT and broadcasting, and that is virtual rack. Now, what is virtual rack? Well, you know what? There are more and more, there's a growing number of broadcast infrastructure products that run in computers, that run virtually. In fact, we've been doing this for some years. It's just that we put a custom box around a lot of these things, whether it's an automation system or an audio processor or some kind of a routing switcher. So much of this has been done in the last 20 years or so anyway, virtually in software. But now the software is becoming, let's just say, portable. It's standards based, and it can be run in containers, software containers. You might think of them as Docker containers. Docker is a standard. It's not the only one, but that's what a lot of people think about. Well, the folks at Broadcast Bionics have made this easy. You don't have to have an IT degree or a lot of experience with Kubernetes and that kind of thing to make this work. They've made Virtual Rack available to be understood and installed and run by today's broadcast engineers. So the Virtual Rack is a server. It's a server that is loaded with the oversight software, the management software that lets you choose what broadcast functions you want. You want some codecs? You got some codecs. You want a phone system? You got a phone system. You want some audio processing or maybe an audio console? You've got that. Things that run in containers from different companies like Sound4, Telos Alliance, Ferncast, or 2WCOM. You click the application that you want to run, the broadcast device that you want to install virtually. You click it, it downloads the latest version, and then it runs it. You give it the IP address, the management is all there. It's easy to do. And most of these programs you can try before you buy. Most of them will work with limited functionality before you even license them. And then you contact the respective manufacturer. So if you want to run a Forza audio processor from Omnia, well, you would buy the license for that. You plug the license in on your virtual rack, and voila, you have an audio processor. All different kinds of processors too, FM or HD or combination of both. So the virtual rack lets you do all this, and then of course it gives you other benefits that normally would be a little bit difficult to implement, like failover. Hot failover. So if a server should fail, it'll fail over to another server that's running. Dan McQuillan is the owner, the managing director of Broadcast Bionics. He's been on our show before to explain Virtual Rack. We ought to have Dan on again. This is just an amazing technology. And I got to tell you, I work for Telos Alliance. They make virtualized broadcast products. When they saw Virtual Rack, when our developers saw it, they went, oh, wow. That's really good. That makes it easy for people to install. So check it out. Virtual Rack is available from your favorite Broadcast Bionics dealer. You can go to the website, bionics.co.uk, or just Google Broadcast Bionics Virtual Rack and find out about it for yourself. Thanks so much. Huge props to Dan McQuillan and his development team over there in England and what they've put together here. They're shipping these all over the world. and you can get one too, or more than one. You're going to find them very useful. All right, it's This Week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack. Chris Tarr is with us for this episode, and we've got a couple of gentlemen from the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh, and that would be Andrew Smock and William Kirchhoff. And gentlemen, I'd like to pick out some of the, things I didn't know they taught in college, type of courses. Look, back in the 1960s, maybe even the 70s, you could take electronics courses from the Cleveland Institute of Electronics or other places. But you guys offer these elective courses: basic electrical circuits, essentials of information systems, network and data communications, remote production. I'm surprised and delighted that you guys are offering these kind of courses. William or Andy, who wants to talk about this first, about the selection of courses and how you decided, somebody graduating with this degree needs to know these things?
I'll start a little bit. So I noticed, like Andy said, I noticed with some of these certificates that the other programs on campus were offering, and thought back to my own education and thought that those were covering the bases that we needed to have. And so that's why I was bringing suggesting that they we look at these different things, because I felt it was what a basic broadcast engineering person needs to have. You can't be, and even our students here, we generally strive to teach our students and have them become a generalist, so that they understand radio, they understand television a little bit, they understand narrative production and post-production, so that when they leave, they have a good understanding of the different types of media production and media creations, things that we have available. And that's what I felt as an engineering student. You need to have the basic understandings of what goes on. And certainly since I was in school, that breadth of technology, a breadth of information has expanded. Because when I graduated, there really wasn't much of a internet available or anything like that, really. So that is a big change, but you still have to have the basics. So that's how we came up with this list, and blended them together with what we were already offering here. And there we are.
Andrew, do you have any favorite courses in this program that you think this is going to be popular? Everybody's going to want this.
Well, yeah, I think the live remote production course, it's a newer course of ours that's taught by our colleague Justine Stokes, and she's offered it twice now, and it's been very popular. And I would say that there's a good engineering component to it, and I think we're going to see that grow as we launch this program in the fall. I think it's going to be a course that the students, well, obviously the broadcast engineering students have to take, but we're even seeing students who aren't maybe interested in engineering taking it and realizing that, hey, there's this other level to broadcasting. There's this technical side to things. And I think that's going to be and continue to be a very, very popular course within the program here, both for the engineering and non-engineering students. We have a lot of students that come to our university because they want to do, live sports production, and that's something that's a part of that course as well, as are many other kinds of live production. But the technology used to make it all work and make it happen, I think is just, it leans very heavily on those students who are technically minded. And so I think that's going to be very attractive to a number of students. And it really gives, I think, a nice course where students who have been through like the basic electrical circuits 1, 2, and some of the others are going to be able to apply those skills more on the broadcast side of the world. The engineering technology, basic electrical circuits courses are taught in our engineering technology department. So they're not teaching it as a broadcast course, right? They're teaching basic electrical circuits 1 and 2, but they are going to, as students, then be able to be applying those skills directly through courses like live remote production and others that we have in the program as well. The courses that we have on the program for the engineering emphasis certainly aren't the limit of what the students can do while they're here. There are other courses they can take. They can get involved in, working at WRST or working at our PEG channel, Titan TV. And so I think that, that live remote production course jumps out at me to answer your original question. But I think there are a lot of other opportunities that exist within our curriculum and within our stations here at the university that are going to give students that chance to really hone their craft based on what they're learning in those courses outside of radio, TV, film.
Oh wow, I see you guys solving a real problem here, and it may seem like a small problem, but it's actually larger. A good friend of ours in the industry, he's retired now, used to get candidate after candidate coming to his office, applying for a job in the radio engineering department, and after the interview, the candidate would leave, and my friend would say, he's a little light in Ohm's law. maybe your students will not be a little light in Ohm's law. I see.
No,
Look. I'm no expert here, but I see something missing from this list. But the good news is we have somebody on the show who can fill that void. I'm talking about SNMP Professor Chris Tarr. Chris,
Well,
simple network management protocol. Tell me about it, Chris. And should that be part of somebody's education?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the big thing now. And I was just looking at some new toys for SNMP over the weekend that servers use, or server rooms use for continuous data logging. I'm going to start playing with that. But the one thing that we haven't brought up yet that is really, I think, is important with this program. A great example is I'm the consulting engineer for the Milwaukee School of Engineering's station. That's a whole building full of engineers, and they don't have anybody doing it. So, over the years, I remember when my first on-air job was in Ripon, Wisconsin, and there used to be a station there at the college, and that's gone now too. So, so many with the changes in technology and changes in media, a lot of these courses on media have focused solely on multimedia, which to be fair is really where the industry is. We all know that the live announcer jobs are kind of starting to dry up, the live TV stuff, the TV mechanics. But as I always say, you could change the format tomorrow, you still need a guy to run the transmitter. So um I think that it does fill that void very well, and I think that getting that rounded education and broadcast is also really critical. Um, like I said, and you're kind of the same way, Kirk. I started out on the air, then I went into programming and all these different things. I went into engineering. I did some copywriting. I did production. I learned all there was to know about this business, and it made me very good at what I do because I can. I don't want to pat myself on the back. I guess I'm good at what I do. Because I've been there. I've been on that side of the microphone. I've been on that side of the phone in the sales department. I've been, that sort of thing, and that makes me really understand what other people are dealing with. So, that's one of the things I'm really excited about, especially with WRST, because they've had such a great history with their students in media. I have worked with several people who've gone through WRST, who are now technical and doing the technical side of things. Plus, I know some people who are on the air from there. So it's really a natural. I think it's a real natural combination.
I'm so delighted to see that there are plenty of courses about the practice, the business, the art, and the science of production of media. And it's so great that potential engineers would have a background in that. They understand the process of content creation. Bill or Andy, would either of you like to speak to that emphasis?
Sure. I'll go ahead. Go ahead, Andy. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that one thing we did talk about early on in our development of the emphasis was whether or not we would want it to be a standalone certificate. And what we decided was this isn't quite the right moment for that. We want to make sure that students who are going through and earning this or completing this coursework rather in broadcast engineering are also taking those production courses. So to get back to what both you and Chris were saying, Kirk, that we think that's really important that students are having that production experience, because then those that are more technical are going to be able then to link those technical components of it back to their production experience and understand it in a much more uh, like applicable way, right? It'll be a little bit more real for them than if they just took, circuits 1 and 2 and information systems courses. No, they need to, I think, have that production experience to be able to make those connections from the technical side to the production side.
Cool. Okay. William?
Yeah, it helps. As an engineer, it helps me understand, since I've done those types of things, what that person needs. So if I understand what their needs are, as far as what they're trying to accomplish, say we got a production going on, we have this remote production going on, how am I going to make it work? And if I can understand the technical side of things and talk to them in a way that they can convey their needs to me, then I can help them. I think engineering is really, when it boils down to it, a lot of it is it's a customer service need that the engineer has to apply to the people that he works with. I mean, I'm sure Chris can say that he's serving the different people in the different stations, and he has to understand what they need in order to make things work.
Cool. All right. We are talking to Andrew Smock and William Kirchhoff at the University of Wisconsin Oshkosh. Chris Tarr is with us as well. And tell you what, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break for a sponsor announcement right now. When we come back, we're going to delve more into these classes. And I want to have I'll be asking a question about the role or the place for non-traditional students in your program, because I don't understand that too well. Years ago, I was a non-traditional student in broadcast meteorology at Mississippi State University, but it was all distance learning. So I'd like to understand how a non-traditional student might fit in, somebody changing careers and might want to get this degree, or at least a good part of it. Hey, it's This Week in Radio Tech, and I'm Kirk Harnack. Chris Tarr is along, and we're going to talk about one of our sponsors right now, and that is Henry Engineering. Henry Engineering makes a product that I love. I've bought 6 of these here over the past couple of years. It is the Henry Engineering Back UPS, the Back UPS. And what does it do? Well, it's a power controller for ensuring reliable AC power to critical equipment that's powered with a UPS, an uninterruptible power supply. Now, Back UPS constantly monitors the output of the UPS, and it automatically bypasses the UPS if its output fails. Now, I know they're not supposed to fail. After all, they're called uninterruptible, but believe me, they fail. Or it becomes unstable. Back UPS has 2 different AC inputs. It has a line input and a UPS input. The line input, that plugs directly into your local AC socket. Of course, the UPS input, that connects to the output of your UPS. And if Back UPS senses that there's a problem or an interruption of the UPS output, well, it switches over to line, bypassing the UPS entirely. And this keeps the load powered up, and it allows the UPS to be disconnected for battery replacement or other maintenance or servicing, or replacing the whole thing, as I've had to do a couple times. The Back UPS includes a delay timer that ensures the UPS output is stable before the UPS is switched back online. So it doesn't click back immediately. It makes sure things are good. So whenever the UPS output comes on, the system monitors its output for a preset time period, and the UPS will be switched online only if the UPS output is stable. A great use for these products, for the Back UPS, is you've got some equipment in your rack that needs to stay up, but it only has one power input. It only has one power supply. I've got some servers and a few other things that have 2 power supplies, and that's great. You plug one power supply into the UPS, you plug the other one into the AC power strip off the commercial power directly, and things are hunky-dory. But for those things that have just one power supply, one power input, like some Ethernet switches I've got, or a couple of audio processors I've got, or my EAS box, well, I don't want power interrupted to those things, especially since an Ethernet switch can take 4 or 5 minutes to boot up. So I put a separate power strip in there that's powered all the time with the Back UPS, either by UPS or commercial power. It's great. Love these things. Check them out. You can get them from Broadcasters General Store. That's BGS. Their website is bgs.cc. Great folks, sharp pencils, good deals, lots of information. They can usually tell you just exactly when your product's going to arrive because they keep good track of manufacturers, delays, shipping times, that kind of thing. Thanks a lot, Broadcasters General Store at bgs.cc, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. And thanks to Henry Engineering. Hank Landsberg always comes up with good stuff that works well that by golly you want. All right, I'm Kirk Harnack. Chris Tarr is along, and we have Andy and William from the University of Wisconsin at Oshkosh. Let's see, gentlemen. Okay, it's on my mind. Non-traditional students. Who wants to tell me about, is there a place in your program for non-traditionals? See, are we muted with Andy? There we go. Okay. No worries.
I can speak to the non-traditional students. The university has an option for non-traditional students to enroll, well, in anything, but one of the options that I think probably is most applicable here is as a non-degree seeking student. So Kirk, you mentioned maybe someone just wants to come back and take a few classes, but they don't want to do a whole program. A non-degree seeking student, that status rather, would allow them to do that. So if someone's wanting to come in and maybe they've been working in the field, maybe they fell into broadcast engineering from another area, but there are some gaps in their knowledge, they could certainly come back and take some specific courses to help fill those gaps in. And in terms of other forms of non-traditional students, of course, anyone can come back and major in the program and choose this broadcast engineering emphasis. And perhaps down the road, we'll have some other options as well. We've had some very early discussions about something called a micro credential, where students come in and they just take a couple courses, and that's building up towards some type of certificate. But that's not something that we're offering currently, but it is something that may be a possibility further down the road.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. William, in your role there, do you come across non-traditional students?
Sure. We've had a few non-traditional students over the years, and they're sometimes very refreshing. It's a different perspective. They're sometimes a little more mature and more focused, but we can acknowledge them and bring them into what we have going on just as easy as anybody else. And I don't see anything negative towards it, or I really would see it as a positive that we would have, offer something to anybody.
I see that, part of the program, and maybe you can help me understand, how do certificates, how are they part of the 4-year program? Are you required to get one of these certificates? For example, digital content creation certificate or sports media certificate. I wouldn't be very good at that. I'm no good at sports or understanding it. Film and TV production certificate or media literacy. That sounds very worthwhile. Explain the role of certificates in the 4-year program.
Sure. So one of the things that we require of students who are majors in our program is that they complete coursework outside of our program as well to become more well-rounded. But we wanted to give students from outside of the radio, TV, film program opportunities to come take courses with us and have some kind of credential as a result of doing that. And that's where these certificate programs kind of came from. And we launched the certificate programs, probably 2 years ago now. And we chose to create certificates in areas that were very kind of popular among our students already, students that were our majors. However, what we discovered very quickly is that our own students were then going and declaring these certificates because in many cases they were already taking those courses, and they were taking those certificates in addition to kind of highlight the potential directions they might go in their career. So if someone was wanting to go into sports media, they were declaring that sports media certificate. They were already doing the coursework. It was really nothing extra for them, but it's something they can put on their resume that, hey, I have a Bachelor of Science in Radio, TV, Film from UW Oshkosh, or I also completed a certificate in sports media or digital content creation. So the certificates are used both by our majors in the program, but also from students outside of our program too that want access to our professional media facilities and want to have more media skills kind of in their tool bag. As I'm sure, everyone who's watching and listening knows, so many organizations have been wanting to have more internal media creation going on in recent years. And those courses that we have in those certificates kind of allow those students to, again, from other areas on campus, come in, take those courses, and make themselves more employable in those types of roles.
Gotcha.
Speaking of
Yeah,
speaking of
go ahead, Chris.
certificates,
Mhm.
have you guys thought about or considered SBE certification as part of the courses?
It went through my head at one point in our discussion, but we have not formalized anything with the SBE. But I know they are interested in doing those types of things, so we certainly could do something like that as well.
Sir, I know that at one time they partnered with one of the schools to actually grant certification as from completion of the program. So there may be some opportunities there as well.
Mhm.
But I love the idea of the certificates, and because that's another thing that we run into in this business is because there's really no formal training anymore, how do we know that somebody is competent and qualified? Now, there's obviously SBE certifications, but not everybody participates in those. So,
Right.
how do you know that somebody actually has gone through and taken a program like that? So I love the fact that there are certificates of these sorts of things because at least that says that somebody has gone through some schooling and has actually completed it, which in itself, I say the same thing about the SBE certification. Just the fact that you've invested the time to do that, I think, says a lot.
Yeah, yeah, that's really very important for us.
Hey, I got a question for Chris. Chris, in my broadcasting career, I have been involved in sports broadcasting very, very little. And yet, the people who I meet, I'm on a board of directors here in Tennessee with some sports heavy guys, and they always, man, they just seem so well rounded in their understanding of the process of getting a sports broadcast on the air, what it takes to keep people entertained for 4 hours or however long the football game is. And I really end up walking away impressed with the skills that these people have. So I think it's delightful that there's a sports media certificate as one of the possible certificate emphasis requirements that you could have. Chris, what's been your experience with people who are involved in sports broadcasting and their well-roundedness in broadcasting as a whole?
Well, first of all, one of my duties as a VP is I go to the WBA job fairs, which is we put those on, EEO kind of things, and students can come by and put in applications and things. And I would say a good 60 to 70% of the people who are applying for positions basically want to be sportscasters, play by play, and that
Ah,
sort of thing. So first of all, it's a huge and as you know, and sports radio has become a very big industry. But I agree with you, and I think part of the whole rounded experience is because oftentimes, these guys are out there, they set up their own equipment, they troubleshoot their own equipment. I know our guys when they go to play, play by play at high schools and stuff like that, they have their own remote kits. If there's a problem, they get on the phone with me and we troubleshoot it. But just in general, because of the way that the equipment works and that sort of thing, they already kind of have an aptitude for it. And then as they start to use this stuff, they're very intimate with it. I mean, they use it all the time, so they become very familiar with it and the technology. So you're right. I think that a lot of these guys, are very well rounded. I think that some of the sports guys, and there's obviously there's levels to that. If you're at a national level, obviously you're not touching any of the equipment. All that's done for you. But certainly where people get their start in local markets and in local radio, it's usually you're the one setting up the equipment, making it work and that sort of thing. And that kind of sticks with you. So yeah, I think that's why we see a lot of those people with such a well-rounded base to what they're doing.
I'm not trying to get ahead of the program there, but I've noticed that at Middle Tennessee State University, where I'm not sure they teach broadcast engineering per se, but they do teach a lot of production. They've got a TV production truck there at MTSU. Do you guys have any plans for a TV production truck? That opens up a little bit different world of production to
Sure,
people.
sure. We're working on some other types of plans, but not necessarily a production truck. But we do a lot of different things and do a high quality production, but we are still using what you might call, portable carts and setting up the gear as they go, which I think teaches the students a lot because they really have to set up the whole thing every time, the cameras, the cables, and things like that. But no, that's something that we've talked about, I guess, in the past a little bit. But we're working on trying to link our. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, and also, as these guys go into as these your students get into the real world, that's probably the world that they're starting in. They're probably most people are not going to step out
Yeah,
and get their first
yeah,
job working in a remote facility like that. Most people
sure.
they're going to step out, and their first couple of jobs are going to be that, hauling their own equipment around, setting it up, and making it work. So, while
Right,
it's great to
right.
have that kind of a truck and that
Yeah,
experience, that's probably not going to translate into what their first couple of years is going to be.
Yeah.
yeah, sure. Yeah, I
Well,
agree.
I have a question about the process of show production, and I'm thinking TV show production. It involves
Mhm.
engineers, technical people, and the talent, and maybe producers and writers. And it's an area that I just find fascinating, and I wonder if it's taught or if it's something that you really have to pick up. But I see some people are so good at it, and here's what it is: it's producing a program, and it could be radio. Come to think of it, it could be radio, uh, but more often television, where it's produced in a nonlinear fashion. And, a tiny example of that is this show. At the end of the show, when we've cut the stream off, I record the intro to the show because I know what we talked about. So the best time to record the intro is after the show's over. And then Suncast magically, splices that onto the beginning of the show when we publish it. So, but I see some people, like a guy like, let's say, Mike Rowe, who used to produce Dirty Jobs and some other programs. Guy's an expert at making things, kind of visualizing, understanding how things are going to fit together in the final product and recording them appropriately then. And hey, I do TV weather sometimes. Sometimes I'm doing TV weather that isn't going to play until Sunday afternoon. And today it's Friday. So I'm giving a, synoptic weather forecast, and I got to talk out of my mouth like it's Sunday afternoon. Okay. Is there a class that teaches this kind of production? Is that included in any of the production classes?
That's an interesting question. I think I would say yes, that a lot of our courses or some of our courses might address that. I'm sure, and as we've talked about the sports broadcasting courses and the news courses. So, yeah, we talk about a lot of different aspects of production and how to put things together in a concise manner or in a nonlinear manner, like you're saying.
Yeah. And Andrew, you have any insight into this? Because I see it as being a very valuable skill for people who can pull it off. And when I worked a little bit in TV news, I noticed that sometimes a story that broke late at night and it was going to calm down, the reporter would record something for the morning news, as if it was before the sun came up. Right? You got to have the lighting right, and they would talk in such a way that it seemed relevant to the morning news, even though they were recording it, 6 hours prior. Is that taught in anything you know of?
I mean, I think to some degree, yes. I mean, I think what you're really kind of talking about is thinking about your audience, right? And thinking
Oh
about
yeah,
who's actually
yeah.
going to be listening to this or watching this. And I think that's something we stress pretty heavily in many of our courses is, consider your audience. What is it that you're trying to tell your audience? What story are you telling them? Whether it's a news story or it's a narrative story, how are you telling them that story? How can you, make it most believable and most applicable to them so it really hooks them and it resonates with them. So I think in a lot of cases, yeah, it comes down to audience and thinking about that audience.
Thinking about that is great advice. That's terrific.
I, I
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
also think that nowadays that real time, there's still real time reporting, but I think you'll find that in most cases now, the reporters they're called now multimedia journalists. They bring their own cameras and that sort of thing. So I think that's kind of baked in the whole nonlinear or asymmetrical reporting and producing. I think we're already there. I mean, we definitely are radio, and TV has gotten to that point too now, where oftentimes doing stuff in the field, and you're doing several versions or whatever, and you're coming back and doing magic to it. And as production tools get better and easier to use, I think we're seeing more and more of that. It's that whole, working more with less.
Yeah, so
Very true.
you're thinking about,
Yeah.
okay, what's the piece that's going to be for the evening news, and then you're recording the piece that's going to be for your Facebook feed, and then you're going to record this other piece. So yeah, I think there's, again, just what are those different audiences that I'm trying to reach, and what's the best way to reach them?
Good point. And I think people that use different social media, if they're good at it, they already understand their Instagram audience is different, or may view it in a different light, a different way, a different time than their TikTok audience or a broadcast audience. Hey guys, we got to take our last break. When we come back, it's going to be tip of the week time. So Andrew, William, be thinking about your tip of the week. I'm going to grab Chris Tarr right now and say, Chris, do you know anything about microphone processing?
As a matter of fact, I do, and I have one that I love. So let's talk
Yeah.
about it. I have the
Okay.
Angry Audio, the Angry Audio Chameleon Rebel, which is for the RE20 microphone. Now they make two different types of mic processors. There's the Rebel for the RE20 and the Smooth for the SM7. And this is the first mic processor I've ever run into that you just basically plug it in and it works. Very little to do in the way of settings, and that's by design. Corny Gold and Catfish Mike Dosh sat down and talked about mic processors and the fact there are so many knobs and buttons and things to do, and they're so easy to make sound horrible. How do you get around that? Well, if you design a processor that works with the microphone that you're going to use, then there's a whole lot of things that you can avoid with that. And that was kind of the planning between or behind rather the Rebel and the Smooth is okay, you're going to have an SM7 or you're going to have the RE20. So you can already preset a lot of the things that that are in effect there. So, a lot of those beginning settings are already there for you. And so there's very little in the way of control. There's room size, which is kind of the gate. There's gain, and there's just a very mild low and high end EQ. And you don't need anything more than that because of the algorithm of the mic processor takes care of all of that. And it sounds fantastic. It has that really big kind of radio, thick, warm sound to it, and without having to tweak much at all. And again, as we all know, regular off the shelf mic processors that are kind of one size fits all really are one size fits none. It's really hard to get them dialed in exactly. And you go from mic to mic, and the settings are all different. Even if you have the same mic, it can sound different, even with the same settings with the analog audio processors. These are
Yeah.
tailored to the mic that's going to be plugged into it. So time after time, you get a consistent, good quality sound. And of course, it's designed very well. It's an Angry Audio product. So of course, high quality components, high quality power supply, everything is nice and quiet, and it's built to last. So take it from me, I use it all the time when I do my radio shows and do my production work. I use the Angry Audio Smooth, the Chameleon Smooth for my, or I'm sorry, the Rebel for my, I have an RE20. I use the Rebel for mine and I love it. So check it out. You can check it out at angryaudio.com, talk to your favorite broadcast vendor, and try out the Rebel and the Smooth mic processor. I think you're going to love it as much as I do.
Imagine Chris Tarr's voice dipped in butter, just like it says on the website.
It's like butter, honey and butter.
That's right. And you're in America's Dairyland up there, aren't you?
We got lots of butter.
You got lots of butter. All right. Our show is also brought to you by the friends at Max Connect, and Josh Bone got together with Mike Dosh, and they came up with an amazing product that it's a Max Connect label on it. You can now buy FM processor software and run it on your own computer. And I've done this before. I've got an Omnia SST running in Greenville, Mississippi on a news talk station, and it's amazing. It runs in a server along with some other stuff. It's running Windows 10. And the problem is this processor can put out I should say there's no connection on the server computer to spit out a multiplex signal. So what do you do? In my case, we're using micro MPX to the transmitter site. That's an IP standard. But what if you need that MPX signal to be local. That is, it's usually on a BNC connector. It contains the whole FM signal, the left plus right, the pilot, the left minus right, the RDS data, if you want that, contains all that. And it's honestly, it's kind of a fragile signal. You need to take good care of it. It needs to be precise and pristine. Well, the way to get that out of a computer and into your air chain, whether it's your exciter is right there next to it, or whether you're feeding to a 950 megahertz analog STL that's sending composite, you need a way to do that. And the way to do that is the Max Connect U.192. It's an MPX USB sound card. MPX standing for multiplex, or your composite signal, as us older engineers are used to saying. So you plug this thing in. It's a UPS. It's a USB device. You plug it in to your computer, and you can tell your FM processor software that, hey, put out your signal, your multiplex signal, digitally out the USB to this device, and this device, the U192, will convert that into this beautiful, pristine, super clean composite multiplex output. And now you've got it on that BNC connector, and you can hose it right over to your exciter, your FM exciter, or to your STL system. And you get really nice, beautiful stereo FM audio out of that. It works just great. Now, it also supports incoming audio to your computer, so you can use the same box for bringing analog audio in or AES-EBU digital audio in. And you can also spit digital AES-EBU audio out and analog audio out. Now, they won't be in the multiplex format, but they can come out this box as well. It's really awesome. It's exactly what many people in broadcasting need. If you like to do Breakaway One or Stereo Tool or Omni SST on your own, this is your interface device, and it makes you sound great. Thank you very much, Max Connect and Josh Bone, for coming up with this terrific idea and making it available for us broadcast engineers. All right, it's time for Tip of the Week, and I'm going to let Chris Tarr start first. Chris, the spotlight is on you, sir. What do you say?
Fantastic. So my tip of the week is redundancy. And I ran into this at the beginning of the show. We talked about that, where I had a site go down. We had a fiber go down, which is very rare, but it happens. And two of the stations that were affected were translators. They weren't, that wasn't a big deal to us. But the third station is our big station, top rated in the market, and we really can't have that go down. So what do? Well, speaking of Max Connect, we had a Max Connect device at the transmitter site along with a playout machine there, and it worked exactly the way it was supposed to. The fiber went down. Silence sense went off after about 20 seconds. It flipped to the local machine. And instead of having audio delivered over the fiber, we just transferred the files over the Max Connect to the playout device at the transmitter site. And without missing a beat, it was probably a 12 or a 13-hour outage. So, that was pretty significant, but that station stayed on the air the entire time. So again, think about the things that keep you up at night, and those are the things you need to address. And I can't say enough, this particular solution, I think it's $100 a month for the data plan or something. But boy, I mean, even if you had a traditional STL, if something were to happen at the studio or something, it's just great insurance.
Sure is. And it's a good thing Mother Nature didn't have a redundant tornado. You only had one, right?
We only had one. So, fortunately, I didn't get any reports of anybody getting hurt or anything. So that was good. But boy, did it make my life difficult for a few hours.
I think we made William chuckle. William, I'm going to go to you next. What are you thinking of as a tip of the week? What should our audience take away?
Yeah, we're having some electrical system problems here, or I should say some renovation in our building. So I think a good tip is documentation, knowing what is going to be connected to what. And so we've had to shut down our systems completely a couple of times in the last 3 weeks. And that means shutting everything off so that when they do the electrical work, it's not being damaged by they turn it on and off. And so yeah, documentation, knowing where everything is, and knowing how it's connected and where you're getting electricity from. That's a big thing.
Documentation is a very good thing. Oh my, don't keep it all up here, because this can go away and other people can't access it either. It's encrypted. Andrew, you have a tip of the week to leave us with today.
Can my tip of the week be a shameless plug?
Please, yes.
For everyone watching and listening, if you think our broadcast engineering emphasis might be right for you or someone you know, please tell them to go to uwosh.edu/RTF and check out our program. There's a button there you can click to come schedule a tour, and we'll give you a full tour of our production facilities and let you know if this might be the right place for you.
I was hoping
So that's
you'd
my
mention
tip.
that. I was hoping you'd mention that. And if you weren't, I was. If people want to get in on this program, looking for a college, looking for a 4-year degree, or just looking for a certificate, I think the University of Wisconsin Oshkosh has your ticket here for our business, our industry. And I will put that link in the show notes. That'll be part of when we publish the program tomorrow. That'll be part of that, so people don't have to memorize it. Although it's pretty easy. uwosh.edu/RTF, right? Did I get that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good deal. Gentlemen, it's been a delight. We are all out of time. And because I think Suncast has a dance to go to, so we're going to let him go dance. Chris Tarr, thanks for being with us. I appreciate you very much. And
Good to be here.
to see you. Yeah. Hope you can come back again sometime. It's always a pleasure to have you on. And also Andrew Smock from Andrew, are you in Oshkosh yourself? Is that where you are?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Okay. All right. Good. You guys have some airplane activity there about once a year, don't you?
Yeah, the big EAA convention happens here at the end of July. Yep. So planes from across the world fly into Oshkosh for one crazy week.
It's as we pilots say, it's a beehive around there. And William Kirchhoff, good to see you. You also are an Oshkoshian. Is that what do you call someone who lives in Oshkosh? Oshkoshite?
Oshkonian? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We're going to find that out.
Maybe I'll make
part
that
of the curriculum.
Sure. Yeah. No.
Oh, and we ought to give a shout out to Beth. Who wants to say shout out to Beth Hubbard?
Beth Hubbard. Yep. She's here too in the area, and she was a big part of getting this curriculum together as well.
Well, she was the first person I contacted when I saw the press release, and she turned me on to you two guys. So thanks to Beth for
she did a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah, she did.
Well, want to make sure to give her a shout. All right, we got to run. Suncast, thank you so much for another great program, a great production, and we got to go. We'll see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye.